Okay, in this video I'm going to talk about something a little bit different than charts. Let's talk about your psychology, our psychology as humans, because it's important that whatever we see in the charts can have our because whatever we see in the charts can have an influence of what we want for the price to do. And let's remember that the market doesn't care if you want to And let's remember that the market doesn't care what you want. They just do what it has to do. So sometimes you see this like a breakout and you make a long and you don't know if it's actually going up, but you just want to get in here. And you sometimes put an over leverage here and your stop loss is not here but below here, and you start trading by emotion and not exactly using your strategy. So psychology is something that influences your perception in the charts. So it's not easy to actually see what you have to see when you want something to happen. And sometimes it goes against you and you start moving your stop loss, you start moving your entry, you start adding, or you get out and then the price goes without you. And that kind of things can distort your technical analysis, because that's just one step for doing any successful trade. You have to be sure of what's going on before you actually get in. And before you go in, you have to know where you are going to be wrong and when you are going to get out. Because getting out is as important as getting stopped. For example, you know that the price here, this is an ABC, but if the price come back here, maybe this is not an impulse and this is like turning around, so you know the stop loss is going to be here. You have to respect it. It's not like it's gonna go like this and then you move your stop like here and then it does this and then you move your stop loss here and then the price goes this and you continue to move your stop loss. That's not how it should work. Once you set it, you have to just forget it. Once you set it, forget it. The only thing that you can do is once the price goes down, you move your stop loss to break even. In the case of this turns around, it doesn't make you lose any money. Even if it goes away without you, it doesn't matter. Let's remember that 95% of people who invest in the market lose money. So if you lose money, don't feel bad. It's something very common. And one of the reasons this happens is because people is impatient. People don't have an idea what the market is doing. A lot of people over leverage their trade. They try to bet in this game. They try to make a lot of money in a simple trade and they don't think in the long term. Sometimes they just get liquidated trying to get rich in one night. And that's not the idea of this. The idea of this is that you grow constantly, slowly, and that's more stable than doing ridiculous ROI in every trade. But it happens because emotions get in the way, and that affects your psychology, and that affects your perception, and that affects everything else. So don't let this scare you. You are going to lose money. That's part of this trading world. But the idea is that you make more than what you lose, and you start moving just at the wave. You get up, you get down, you get up, you get down, but you never go back to your initial spot. Remember the first rule: corrective wave never return 100%. So your profit never returns to the zero. That's the idea. If it does, you're gonna enter into your revenge trade mode, and that's gonna kill your account. So let's see some of the benefits of wave principle that we can know that can help us in any market. The first one is that it helps us identify the trend. When you see an impulsive movement, you know that this is going to go up again. If you see a sequence like this and the price continue up, you already know that it's going up. If you see a price like this and it breaks below a trend line, you know that the trend is going to change, and then you follow it down until the next movement. You also know that the price never moves straight. It always does a corrective way, so you don't FOMO, fear of missing out and getting here when the price comes back down, and then you see a negative value here, and you close the position, and then the price goes away without you, and you start like feeling bad about it. So that's not what you have to do. You know that the price is gonna go back. Wait for the retracement, you get in, and then ride along. It also signals the resumption of the trade when you see something like this and then it breaks after doing a rise like this, does a corrective way here. You know that this is going to resume the trend and go up again. It also identifies the termination of the trend, especially when you see an end in the diagonal. When you see this in a certain level of Fibonacci, for example the 1618 from a wave down here, then you know that this 1 2 3 4 5 is gonna end, and the price is gonna go back at least 3 movements. It also provides you high probability objective, because when you see the candles, sometimes they look like this and you have no idea what they're doing. But once you know that they have a pattern, you know that this is ABC, so there are high probabilities that it goes up, especially if it does a flag is upside of this trend. That's a very high probability setup. This is not about getting the highest profitable trade, but the highest probability trade. It also provides points of win, because you know if the corrective wave returns to your point 0, that means that it is not impulsive and you are wrong. So you wait for the next setup. It also eliminates the need of complicated indicators of tools. When I first started, I remember that people used a lot of indicators that were painting on the price, like moving average, Bollinger Bands, and the SARS, and also the Ichimoku, and a lot of things that later on you don't even see the wave, but you see a lot of things around it. And most of indicators are lagging because they are using information from the past, and you don't know what's gonna happen in the future. Most indicators work as confirmation once a movement is done. You don't need any of those when you are using the wave principle. In my case, I only use RSI because that helped me identify if the last movement is impulsive or not, and where it's gonna go to find my support when it retraces. And that's it. I don't need any other complicated indicator or tools to find a nice setup in the trade. And this is the most important thing about the wave principle. The first step is to find clarity. If you can see a pattern, don't trade it. It's not about counting, it's about finding patterns. If you don't see a figure, if you don't see a shape, stay away. Wait for it to evolve. That's the second step. Patience. Let each pattern evolve. Wait for a confirmation. You don't want to see something like this, and then A, and you get in here. You wait for B and wait for C, and especially if it doesn't end in diagonal, then this is your pattern. It has clarity. It has confirmation, especially if it goes up. It broke up for this trend line and does another ABC up here. This has clarity and it has confirmation. But it's also important to have consistency. Invest time analyzing with both clarity and confirmation. Don't rush. Don't trade every move. Just wait for them to evolve. Let them have clarity. And once you see it, get in. But also consistency means that you need to study every day. You have to look at the charts. You have to go back. You have to study how a pair behaves, and then you ride along. Sometimes a pair looks a lot easier to you than others. Each one of us is unique. So use that individualism to your advantage. Another skills and requirements that the wave principle can give you is that it also demands multiple forms of abstract thought. As I told you before, we use both of our brain hemispheres. That means that we have a left brain and a right brain. The left brain is the numbers, the logic, the reason. It needs an explanation. The right brain is which give us dreams, is which are used for our creativity, our imagination. This is the side of the brain that fill in the blanks. We see a square here thanks to it. But the logic see numbers like, for example, 618. But that ratio, that proportion is something that works inside our right brain. You don't need one of them. You need both. You need to connect them. And also have an open mindset. Don't be static. Don't think that it's always going to be bullish. You have to have your plan A that's going to go up, and you have to have your plan B in case it turns down. Always use your plan A and B and select one of them. In case you go wrong, you know why it did the other way. It also gives you the ability to analyze all time frames and put them together. This is one of my favorites because you have seen how I analyze in 1 minute charts. When you see movements like this, and then when you zoom out, you notice that he's having after this, so you know that this is going something like this, but it did something like this, so it's going to go down, and then this came out for the bottom to make a new high. That's why you keep your short-term analysis accurate, and the long-term possibilities will usually become evident as they unfold. Try to stay away from weekly, try to stay away from daily. Watch them, put some trend lines, analyze how it looks like, but don't stick in there. Just go inside, go to the present, go to smaller time frames, and see how they connect one to each other, and then how a bigger pattern is gonna be formed after the smaller ones are formed. Avoid, please, all optimistic and pessimistic impulses. You have to be like a robot. You don't have to trade when it becomes personal, because that changes everything in your subjectivity. You have to be like a robot. You have to be static in the way you trade. And let's remember that our consciousness work a lot in our trading business. For example, when we have a profit of $15, we don't see it as a much value. We keep it open, we let it ride, we forget about it. It's not very important. We are expecting this to get really big. But when we see the same number in negative, we are giving it so much value compared to the positive that it makes us feel bad. Sometimes we close the trade, sometimes we don't know what to do. We feel anxious, we open the chart every time, we watch the charts all day. It makes us feel bad. So be aware of this. Don't let it change the way you behave inside the charts. Always read. There are 2 books of this that I recommend to you that are gonna reinforce your mental structure so you can be prepared for what happens in the market. If you get wrong, don't worry. You are going to get back up. You only need to have a strategy so that you don't lose much more than what you are risking. The idea here is that you have a discipline, that once you have a trade setup, you don't go back. You respect it. You are not going to change it. And resilience is that you don't actually let, if you lose something, to affect you. And if you win, you don't let that actually feed your greed, but you still feel normal. That's the idea. Is that you stay aware of your psychological nature so that you can master these 2. Once you have discipline and resilience, you're going to be successful as a trader. So to summarize this video, you have to wait for each pattern to evolve. Let the structure paint itself. Don't trade A, don't trade B to get C. Wait for it to be completed, especially if I'm ending diagonal at C. Wait for it for the rebounds because it can continue down. Changes between a flat to a zigzag. The idea is that you get in once it's complete. Once it has some clarity, you paint your Fibonacci tool, you set up your stop loss, you set up your take profit, and forget about this trade. The only thing that you can move is once the price is on a move, you move your stop loss to break even, and that's it. And maybe, just maybe, you see something up here that is very probable, you can add more in your position and then move on your stop loss if you know that this is going to move further. And that should be it. Don't stress too much about it. And that's it about the requirements. Just wait for these 2 to be connected. Don't trade unless these 2 are aligned, and be consistent. Invest time analyzing with both clarity and confirmation, and after some time you feel more optimistic about your skills and you can actually find better trade setups once you are confident. But the confidence only can be built once you respect these 2. Because if you trade without these 2, trust me, you're going to feel bad and you're not going to see the market the way you should. And you're going to see things that is just going to break your account. And that's not the way you want to trade.